Yes, I'm still here, Hollywood. Just ahead on today's episode.
You learn some valuable lessons when you're not on must-see TV anymore. Be nice. Nobody's forced to work in this industry. It's not only a good thing tactically to be nice to the PA or to the intern or to the first, second, third, fourth AD, because the way this industry works, in 3 years or 5 years, you'll be begging that person for work. I thought this is the way it's always going to be. I still feel that I have creative levels to reach that I have not yet reached. Part of that is because I haven't allowed myself or believed in myself enough. I have some regrets about how I regarded myself in it. I don't think I took myself as seriously as I should have or could have.
One of the biggest phrases ever dreamed up in the TV marketing world was must-see TV. In the 90s, NBC and must-see TV became destination television for the entire country on Thursday nights. There was Seinfeld, Friends, Frasier, ER, and another show that was perfectly cast about a tiny airline in Nantucket run by two witty and engaging brothers. That show was Wings. This is Still Here Hollywood. I'm Steve Kmetko. Join me with today's guest and one of the stars of Wings, Steven Weber. Hello, Steven.
Well, hello, Steven.
Yes, PH.
Oh, fancy pants.
No, you know what? Here I am, 70 years old.
Oh, wow.
And for as long as I can remember, everybody pronounces it Stefan.
Who? Who do you hang out with?
The lady at American Airlines yesterday.
That's
Stefan Kmetko?
No, that's a comment on education in America.
Maybe. I always thought Stefan was spelled with an F.
Same.
So.
Well, good talking to you.
Good talking to
Bye.
you, too.
Thank you. This was great.
So, what are you up to these days?
What am I up
Fill
to
me
these
in.
days? Okay. Well, professionally, I've been blessed to be working on a show called Chicago Med, which is part of the Dick Wolf universe. He rules about 2/3 of the television world. And we shoot it in Chicago, and I love doing that show, and it's a nice hit, I guess, even in today's bizarre world. Doing that, and I'm kind of on the back end of life, and I'm 62, and I could live 40 more years. It won't be pretty, but I could live 40 more years. I have two wonderful sons.
How old are your sons? If you don't mind my asking.
I don't know.
You don't know?
I know, no.
Ballpark?
They're 22 and 20, and they're both
Oh.
musicians, and they're both great guys.
And they're adults. They're people you can talk to now.
Well, they are, yes. They are adults. It's hard for me to treat them like adults, which is something that they kind of don't tell you in parenting school. You get the rules about being a parent, lead you up to about 12 or 13, and then they say you're on your own. But they are adults, sort of. But they've been, I think they have some arrested development a little bit. They're great. They're fantastic musicians, first of all. Very smart, very loving. Can't flush a toilet. Okay?
You're not supposed to in California.
Oh, whoa. You're not? That's
Well,
right, because of the drought?
Yes.
Okay, great. Life is interesting. I feel like I'm wiser and I'm warier, but, still navigating.
You still like doing what you do?
Yes, I do. I've been doing it about 40 years now, and I'm incredibly grateful that I've been able to do it for as long as I have been. I still feel that I have creative levels to reach that I have not yet reached. Part of that is because I haven't allowed myself or believed in myself enough. Another part is that people see me in a specific way, Mr. Funny Pants from the 90s, Wings and all that stuff. But very happy to be working in this occasionally challenging industry, but it's full of great people and great opportunity.
When my father was a Baptist minister, and we used to call my mom the Virgin Alice. And
in front of him?
No.
Okay, good.
When they used to come visit me out here, one of the few shows we could all watch together was Wings.
Really, that's right.
And I enjoyed it. They enjoyed it.
That was a fairly anodyne show in a way. I mean, it was a hit, but it was also what I refer to as a kind of utility show. It was a hit, but also it was firmly lodged between, I want to say, Friends and Seinfeld and all these other edgier, hotter, sexier shows. Wings was a less challenging show, but funny nonetheless. I think they kind of, proved the rule, and which, if it's funny, it's funny. It doesn't have to be political, or it doesn't have to be current necessarily. When I watch the old episodes, now they're old, most of them are still pretty damn funny.
I saw you say not long ago that when you watch it now, and was that still fairly early in your career? Not really. You had been doing it for a while.
A little while. Yeah.
But one of the things you said was, watching it now, you're not certain you would hire you.
Well, maybe that's more of a reflection of myself now, seeing myself and knowing who I was back then. I was relatively brash and kind of maybe edgy for that genre. Was I? I don't know. Maybe just in auditions. Very likable, I suppose. But I'm not a fan of my acting back then on that show, and it took a few years to get to become more relaxed, to the point where when I watched the later episodes, I want to say from maybe the third or fourth season on, then I see that I'm okay. I'm good enough. Everybody was. But those early episodes are very broad and a little hard for me to watch.
There was quite a cast you had on that show.
Good.
I didn't know it at the time.
Yeah, we didn't know it either.
But Tony Shalhoub,
Tom Church,
Tim Daly,
Crystal Bernard, Amy Yazbek, Rebecca Shull, David Schramm, all wonderful actors. And the thing is that pretty much we all pinched ourselves and realized what a good opportunity it was to be on that show. And again, we were always reminded of how humble the show was, even at its height. Again, being surrounded by the cream of NBC, and those were amazing days in terms of television. You
Talk about gravy days.
Incredible. I mean, must-see TV, and again, to name those shows: Friends, ER, Seinfeld, and every other show on all the other networks. I mean, it was pretty incredible. Frasier, it was incredible. Cheers. I mean, when we started, and we shot on the Paramount lot, I would hang out with the cast from Cheers. So exciting. So it was really, really wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever had any regrets about going into your line of work?
No. No regrets about going into the line of work. I have some regrets about how I regarded myself in it. I don't think I took myself as seriously as I should have or could have. That said, I can't have any regrets about how it's going because I'm sitting here with you now, and I'm really happy about that. I have a good career, and I'm still working. Again, in an industry which is very unforgiving.
Can be fickle.
I think I'm definitely past my shelf life. But I'm full of preservatives. And so I don't have any regrets. No, I kind of grew up with show business in the air. My father and mom had been in show business in the 50s. My father was an agent. My mother was a nightclub singer. And so it was always there, right? They didn't necessarily encourage me, but they didn't discourage me either. And I just found myself going in this place, in this direction, which felt pretty natural.
I had a representative once who said, you said shelf life, and it reminded me, he once said to me when I was trying to find any kind of work, he said, face it, Steve, your sell-by date has passed.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. I pay you for that advice?
Well, here's the joke about shelf lives and expiration dates. They're only put there so that the store can rotate its stock. And for the most part, products with expiration dates are still fresh and still edible. Remember that. Now, if somebody eats something, and because I say so, and they get really sick or they die, don't blame me. I'm drunk, really drunk.
They're always good at least a week after the sell-by date.
At least. I mean, I'm not talking about meat necessarily. Well, maybe I am.
Dairy products.
Yeah, dairy products. Hey, listen, I like a little pulp in my water. In my milk.
Chunky milk.
Chunky milk.
Very good. How did you originally find your way into this? Into acting?
To acting?
And you're a writer?
I mean, I write, but I wouldn't say that I'm a writer. Writing is a completely different discipline. I found my way in as a kid, as a young hammy kid trying to impress adults, probably because of my parents' life in show business. I was trying to get their affection, and so I knew a lot of their references, and so I read a lot of film books and TV books, and I was able to comport myself to their contemporaries by talking about early TV that I could not have watched, but they were, and doing the requisite kind of corny impressions. So I was performing at an early age for affirmation, and then began to do school plays at a young age. And then my parents were able to get me auditions for commercials. And so I did a few commercials which actually ran in the 60s, in the era of the 60-second commercial. And I worked with some cool actors. Frances Sternhagen was in one of my...
Oh,
yeah.
Saw her in Driving Miss Daisy.
Oh,
she
she's
was
wonderful.
So wonderful.
She's so wonderful. Well, she was kind of the first real actor who years later was still working, and it was for Gleam toothpaste. But so I started doing that, and then I found my way in high school. I went to the High School of Performing Arts, FAME, I Want to Live Forever, and did that and got my first kind of serious exposure to the craft and potentially the art and the creativity of acting. And then I went to State University of New York at Purchase, which is a great theater school, kind of like the liberal Juilliard. And a lot of great actors have come from there, like Edie Falco and Stan Tucci and Wesley Snipes and Ving Rhames and great directors. And so I just found myself doing this.
A liberal Juilliard?
That's what I like to say. Yeah, well, a liberal Juilliard in the sense that it was less of a conservatory, less up its own, can I say ass?
Yeah.
Less up its own ass. And its nose wasn't in the air. Listen, it cost a lot less, and it was the only school I got into. But it turned out to be the best place that I could have gone to. Isn't my story fascinating?
Yes.
It kind of is, isn't it?
Well...
And I'm telling it in these velvet tones. See, another thing that I found at my age is that I can get down here. And when I look at
nice?
It's really nice.
First thing in the morning.
That's right. Hi there. I have nobody to say this to, but I say it to my dog. Hi there, I say.
What kind of a dog?
Her name is Cat the dog. And she is Jack Russell mixed with a dachshund.
Oh, my God.
Well, she's not the dachshund cuts the psychosis. So she's muscly and fast, but she's fairly calm, like me.
I have a dachshund, a miniature dachshund rescue.
Cute.
Oh, buddy.
Yeah.
He came with the name Shiitake.
Okay.
But I said, no, I can't have a
You
shiitake.
can't have a shiitake.
And I have a rat terrier.
And okay.
Named Sophie. She's a rescue too.
And do they get along?
They get along great.
I'm being encouraged to get another dog to keep her company, but it's hard.
How old is...
She's about 6. Cat the dog?
Cat the dog?
Cat the dog is about 6.
I had a cat named Kitty Carlisle.
Now, wait a minute. That's not... See, you and I can appreciate
Hey.
that. Kitty Carlisle.
I'm gay.
Yeah. Jesus. Stop
friend
using
thought
that
it was
as an
funny.
excuse. It's commendable now.
Now, finally.
Lucky bastard.
Hey. I lost a job once because of it.
Yeah. Now, where's that person?
I don't know, and I don't care.
And they're straight.
Yes. Let's see, where was I?
I don't know. Cat the dog.
Cat the
Kitty
dog.
Carlisle, and you're gay. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
That doesn't get him to stay tuned. What do you have a particular role or project that you worked on that is a favorite that you think of most fondly? For pure kind of satisfaction about, I guess,
executing what it is that I do, what I have been trying to do, would be on the show Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip, which was an Aaron Sorkin show, which ran for one season, could have used at least one more. But it was a great show with Matthew Perry and Brad Whitford and Amanda Peet and a bunch of amazing actors. And I had a great supporting role on it that was perfectly written, and for some reason I was able to do it in a way that gives me great satisfaction. That's something that I can watch and not whinge while I'm watching. That was a good one. I've done some theater, which has given me great satisfaction. I'm not saying I was particularly good in it, but it was so satisfying to do. I did The Producers on Broadway for about 10 months, and that was sensational. Every possible, sensational is the word, every possible sensation that you associate with being in a Broadway musical and something like that, which was at the time still so popular and taking New York by storm, that was incredibly satisfying and amazing.
I loved that show.
It was a great show.
Mel Brooks did a great job on it.
He certainly did, and it wasn't just him. It was everybody involved, and it was an eye-opening experience on a lot of levels. To see the machinations backstage, literally, the technical team, the crew, the swings. I learned so much. The ensemble. I learned so much about what goes into the making of a show on that scale. It was truly incredible. It was great.
I remember sitting in the audience, and it was you were enveloped, by the laughter and the applause, and there was a thunderstorm going on outside, and a loud clap of thunder that Nathan Lane proceeded to play off of.
Of course.
And it was hysterical.
Yeah.
And I was sitting behind Terry Garr.
Wow.
And in front of Jessica Lange and her children.
Are you kidding?
No. No, and at intermission, I remember, I'll share this.
We can cut it out if it's disgusting.
I went to use the bathroom downstairs.
Yeah, let's cut this out.
And there was, it was full of people running back and forth, up and down the stairs. And Terry Garr has MS.
That's right.
I think he's quite well known. And she was trying to get down the stairs, and people were not allowing her. And I saw what was going on, and I went back to her, and I said, "Do you need help?"
Yeah.
She said, "Could you just get me to the other side of the staircase?" I said, "Sure, come on."
That's great.
I gave her a lot of credit for that because, God, I think if I were in that situation, I would have a difficult time.
You mean how the public is seeing you and all that stuff?
Well, and also the manner in which she was being treated by her fellow theater goers. Like, come on.
Really?
Yeah.
They were, that's terrible.
Nobody took notice. So anyway.
One of the fun things about this career in this particular industry is that you get to occasionally come into contact with people like Terry Garr or or Mel Brooks. And they might not be lasting, deep relationships, but they're just little benign collisions, and I forget, because it has happened with some frequency, that it's actually pretty special. That for the most part, of course, the vast majority of the world who are familiar with stars and celebrities will never have the opportunity to see them in real life or anything like that, but we have been able to kind of talk to them or observe them and see them warts and all. I mean, and it can be wonderful. I mean, I've had some. Can I tell this one where when I first got to L.A., probably in '88, I was stuck in traffic outside the Chateau Marmont and my car inching, and I think the Marlboro Man sign was still there. Marlboro Man. Glad I quit smoking. And there was somebody in the car up on my left side, and I can see the passenger in silhouette, a woman, because based on her hair, I guess, haranguing the driver. I couldn't hear it, obviously. And I'm inching up, and I get to where I can see who it is, and it's Dolly Parton.
No kidding.
Oh, yeah, screaming at I don't know, her husband or driver, I don't know who it was. And I love Dolly Parton, and she must have had a great excuse, but holy smokes, that was actually my second celebrity encounter on that scale. Can I tell you my first one?
Yes.
All right. So when I came out here to audition for Wings, they this was, I guess, the third audition. I was waiting to hear after testing for it, doing a screen test. They put me up at the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel, classic Hollywood haunt, maybe literally, who knows how many horrible spirits are there from the 20s and 30s. And I'm making a phone call on a payphone. Remember payphones, Steve?
Yes, I do.
And I'm calling, I think, my agent in New York, and the payphone was at the foot of a staircase. And suddenly, I'm on the phone, and suddenly I realize that there's people kind of gathering at the foot of this staircase, and they're all. It almost looked like a twins convention. And people were wearing badges and insignias and everything, and it was pretty odd. And they were looking up on top of to the top of the staircase, and I'm on the phone with my agent. I look up, and it's Engelbert Humperdinck descending the stairs to meet his fans. And I was like, 1 second, I was like witnessing something out of the Bible. That was it. Isn't that a great story, Steve?
It is.
Full of great stories.
I enjoy these encounters, these
Yes.
chance encounters you have. I had one up on Sunset Boulevard. No, Franklin. There's a little restaurant called La Poubelle.
La Poubelle, next to Birds.
Next to Birds. And I was sitting there having a bite to eat once.
Yeah.
And I looked over, and the person at the next table was Kathy Bates.
Oh,
And I was a huge fan of
Sure.
hers. I'd seen her in Night Mother,
Night Mother.
on Broadway.
Sure.
And Frankie and Johnny and the Claire
Yeah,
de Lune
that's right.
at the Mark Taper.
Mm-hmm.
And I had run into her some other places too. She was one of those people that I kept running into, and I love her to bits.
Nice, and nice.
And nice.
Yeah.
And such a good actress. Actor. We don't
beyond.
say actress anymore.
No, we don't. We don't. Come on. Get modern.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Get up to speed.
I'm trying.
I'm going to cancel you. All right, I'm uncanceling you.
And then one other time, I was invited to a screening of Sweetheart's Dance.
What is that?
That was a movie with Don Johnson,
Oh, my gosh.
and it was a charity screening in Westwood. And at the time, he was dating Barbara Streisand.
Holy smokes.
And I had my sister was visiting me at that time, and I said, do you want to go? I can go to these things anytime. They say Barbara Streisand might be there.
Right. Dip.
She was, Becky was a huge Streisand fan.
Sure.
And I remember she sat through the movie, and Streisand was in the row right behind us, and she kept going through the whole movie.
Yeah.
And that little reception in the parking lot right next to the Westwood Memorial Cemetery.
Perfect.
And
Which is an amazing cemetery.
it is. You want to see stars?
Oh, man. And they will not run from you.
No. But the person who was working the party came up and said, would you like to meet Barbara?
What?
And I said to my sister, Becky, please. Cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Hello. Nice to meet you. No. I enjoyed the movie. Oh, Miss Streisand, I'm such a big fan. Blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
and it was kind of cute. And has since passed away, my sister, not Streisand. And I'm really glad I had that moment to give her.
Was she at least pleasant to Becky?
Oh, she was extremely pleasant.
That's nice.
And she kept pointing out, wasn't he, talking about Don Johnson, wasn't he
nice.
good? It was
That's
like,
nice.
it was a very nice experience.
Now, I want to ask you one thing, though.
Yes.
Becky Kmetko?
Yes, she was, Becky Kmetko.
Rebecca Kmetko?
My father was a minister. My mother, I
Sense of
told you,
humor,
the
with a
Virgin
sense of humor,
Alice.
the Virgin Alice.
And
Rebecca Kmetko.
Yep.
That's
All
hard.
their 5 children were all named after people in the Bible.
Okay.
Stephen got stoned. Boy, did he get stoned.
Yeah, okay.
And
Enos.
Judith.
Enos. Oh, Judith. Okay.
Thomas.
Hezekiah.
No,
Hezekiah,
Hezekiah.
no.
Or Zechariah.
Zechariah.
No, none of that.
Okay.
But anyway, it was a nice experience.
Well, yeah. Look, I mean, we could talk about show business and all that stuff, but that's one of the great. I'm still a fan. Okay, I've been doing this for 40 years and met a bunch of people, but I still fan out. And I wish I didn't, because then it prevents me from having a decent conversation with somebody who might be a peer, might be a pal, a peer pal. I was once at a party, and there was a guy who I was talking to, and we were talking films, and his name was Steve, another Steve. This town is lousy with Steves. And I guess I was my charming, witty self, and he was funny, and we were giving and taking. And then finally, I guess I said to my wife, I said, well, who is that? She said, Steven Soderbergh. And I shut down and became a kind of dissembling, distracted idiot. And that was the end. Still waiting for him to call me back.
He married my former co-host, Jules Asner.
Holy smokes.
And so I had the occasion of encountering him a number of times.
Are they still married?
I believe so.
Oh, okay. All right. Don't get
Well,
mad about
I don't want to start a rumor if they aren't.
Why not?
And he's just a really nice guy.
A nice guy.
And talented.
So talented. But I ruined things all the time. I'm too much of a fan, and I realize that I need to cut it out in the remaining years of my career. I better cut it out if I ever want to work with anybody of any import, instead of the dregs of the industry that I've been forced to work with.
We'll be back for more in a moment.
I'm older and have fewer roles coming my way. We'll be right back. I was cast in a lot of those roles doing that same thing. The jerk. Affable, womanizing dickhead.
Did you go to Second City in Chicago or Toronto?
You mean when you observe?
Or to study?
I never studied improv at those places, but I was privileged to. I went up a couple of times at those places. Not at Toronto. In Toronto, I would just go to watch. Early on, I want to say in the early '90s, I was doing a movie in Chicago and went up and played with them. I've gone up at UCB in LA, and it's not anything that I've studied, but over the years I've kind of observed the rudiments of it, and I think I've learned some of them. I have nothing but the greatest admiration for those people and comedians in general nowadays who thrive on, I'm not saying they want it to happen, but they're perfectly able to comport themselves when something spontaneous occurs. And I'm never less in awe than in improvisers at Second City in Chicago. Doing a Chicago Med, I don't go to clubs anymore. And also this was, still during COVID. So I would take myself to the theater, and I went to see, Steppenwolf and The Goodman, but I went several times to see Second City, and man, it's incredible. They're so gifted and amazing. And
Chicago's a great city for that.
It's great, man. Chicago is fantastic.
I love Goodman and Steppenwolf.
It's amazing.
And so many people came out of Steppenwolf.
So many people.
Yeah.
And the current crop of actors and creators there are stupendous. I mean, it's just great. Chicago in general was something that I was a place that you only hear about if you've never been, and it has a weird narrative, especially nowadays. So it's so dangerous. It's so this, so that. It's a fantastic city with great people. My joke, I guess, at the city's expense is that the city is paved with meat. And man, you can eat steaks until you collapse. They're good steaks, but still, I think they need a few more Whole Foods markets, something.
Whole paycheck.
Whole paycheck.
Yeah.
Or my friends used to call it the food hole.
The food hole. Speaking of famous people you've encountered, are there some talents that are no longer around that you wish you could have worked with?
Oh, gosh. Yeah. I mean, I actually spend a lot of my time watching, I guess, old movies that they call old movies. I rarely watch new television shows. And just recently I was watching The Hustler with Paul Newman and Piper Laurie and George C. Scott. And I wish
was Jackie Gleason in there?
Jackie Gleason. I mean, Jackie Gleason was brilliant in it. But the thing that I really would like is one day to have a director who kind of knows how to use me. In other words, I'm the perfect cannon fodder of an actor. You tell me what to do, I'll do it. I'm not so good at kind of generating my own genius. I'm a pawn, and happily so. But we all hear of these, whether it's the kind of De Niro, Scorsese dynamic or relationship, something like that, or von Sternberg and Dietrich, whoever it is. There's somebody who kind of knows you and knows how to manipulate you or get the light on you, and knows how to draw from you what one can't draw from oneself. And so I would love to find somebody like that. So if there's anybody out there watching, you have free reign to manipulate me. I don't care who you are.
Hitchcock was one of those people.
I mean, yeah,
who used the same actors quite frequently.
Right.
Including his daughter, I believe, Patricia Hitchcock.
That's right.
But
who was good.
Yes, she was.
She was very good.
I just saw her the other day in Strangers on a Train.
She's great.
Yeah.
With the glasses. She gets, I'm sorry, I keep hearing this. She gets it.
Yes.
Doesn't she?
And Psycho, where she's the other secretary.
Oh, that's right.
And she said, oh, he must have seen my wedding ring.
That's
why
right. Well, first of all, I love that movie anyway.
Yeah.
And just for the technical stuff, just for the camera work and for the editing, and yeah, I mean, look, I have a great deal of gratitude being able to work in this industry. That I've never had to work in another one. There's lots of fun. It's rewarding in many ways. It's not without its challenges, and that's also part of the fun. But I still feel like there's a lot I want to accomplish. Maybe you can help me.
I'll try.
Please.
You might want to raise your bar.
Make a call.
Nobody takes my calls.
Oh, God.
You know how that goes.
We'll be right back. Maybe I do. We'll be right back.
I asked you earlier when you came in about Single White Female.
Oh, God, yeah.
Why do you laugh?
Why do I laugh? Because it's such a cool film. It's a real genre film. It's a real 80s thriller, I suppose. Why do I laugh? Because my role in it contains actually a fairly iconic sequence where I get killed, spoiler alert, by having a high heel thrust through my eyeball. And it has remained a kind of a funny and, as I say, iconic sequence. And it falls into the category of me watching, of being difficult for me to watch right now, with my long hair and my kind of presumptuous, kind of young, brash idiocy. And I was cast in a lot of those roles doing that same thing. The jerk, affable, womanizing dickhead. And so it's hard for me to watch that, but it's a fun movie. I mean, It's a real genre thriller. Why were you watching it?
I'm trying to remember. I think maybe because I thought I was going to be interviewing you and I wanted to refresh my memory. But I remember it being a good movie. I remember being in the theater when she takes her stiletto. Yeah. And it was like, oh.
Yeah, that's right.
You didn't see that very often.
No. Now that's tame. Now you can show that to children. Single White Female. That was fun.
Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Jason Leigh was, yeah.
Bridget Fonda, yourself.
That's right. Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah.
It was really fun. It was good. It was fun and it was good.
Yep.
And violent. And sexy and weird and, it was beautifully shot. It was a film. I mean, that's why it's so much fun. It was really great.
If you had the chance to relive some film or television show you've done before, what would it be?
It would probably be the Shining miniseries that I did for ABC. There was 3 nights of miniseries of The Shining, Stephen King's Shining. He was famously unhappy with Kubrick's version of it, while being able to acknowledge that it was a great, classic, fantastically made film. It wasn't his Shining. It was Stanley Kubrick's Shining. And so he and the great director Mick Garris decided to do something that was faithful to his book, his story. And the only place that they could do that would allow them to do it, ironically enough, was TV, which would give them the time to do it. And King was at his height. I don't know if he's ever left
the height.
I don't think so. But he certainly was, height of popularity back then. And I think it was 1995. And I was fortunate enough to get cast as Jack Torrance, famously played by Jack Nicholson in the Kubrick film. And the difference between the miniseries and the Kubrick film was that there was a real trajectory and real arc in the characters and all the development of the story, you know. So my character didn't walk in immediately and and scare you.
That's a good Jack face you just did. Yes.
It's just sort of like
very good.
Yeah, Wendy, and Rebecca De Mornay was in it. She was amazing, and it was pretty decently received, I think. People still, on many levels, prefer Kubrick's slicker, scarier, more iconic film, but the King faithful actually prefer the miniseries that we did. So that's the one that I would redo because I was younger then, and I did not have an appreciation of or an understanding of what that character was going through. Because that story is less about monsters and a house, a building that is full of demons, and more about, I want to say, alcoholism, and more about those demons and dysfunctional families. And as the years went on, after that movie, I was able to understand those things much better. And so I would love to go back and redo a bunch of things. With the understanding of what that character was really going through. But at the time, I was enjoying myself like crazy. Monsters, got to wear makeup. I got to work with Billy Corso, Oscar-winning makeup artist, special effects guys, and Steve Johnson. I mean, it was fantastic. But I would definitely redo a lot of things that I did. I was lucky, and I guess I was able to get hired for certain reasons, but I had a very limited understanding of what I was doing a lot of the time, and I was skimming. I wanted to go deeper. That's what I'm for about taking myself more seriously in the business. And now that I can do it, I'm older and have fewer roles coming my way. We'll be right back. The sad Steve Kmetko show.
Oh, please. Let's not go there.
Okay. But that's the hook.
Oh, it is?
Isn't it?
I don't know.
Okay. Never mind.
We could talk about my stroke. I had a stroke last year.
You had a stroke?
Yes.
How was that?
Oh, it was great fun.
Tell me about your stroke.
I was filling up my car at a gas station, and I collapsed. And I was able to get myself up, but then I couldn't figure. I knew I had to finish filling my tank with gas, and I couldn't figure out how to do it. Oh, it was a real strange experience.
And so, had there been anything, any indications leading up to it?
Nothing. Nope. I know I was driving down the street, and I pulled into this gas station because my car was really low on gas. I was coming from the dentist's office.
Son of a bitch.
Which was fun.
God damn it.
Couldn't happen sooner.
Sure.
And I pulled in, and I was having trouble even pulling up to the...
Wow.
I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
But I was very lucky in that the attendant at the gas station called an ambulance. They took me to a hospital in Chicago, which performs this fairly new procedure where they literally are able to go in and suck out the clot or whatever it is that's blocking. And when I left the hospital, I was there for a month, and then I had 6 weeks of physical therapy.
Right.
The doctor said to me, "You didn't happen to buy a lottery ticket that day, did you?" And I said, "No, why?" "Because you were really lucky." I said, "Oh."
What do you mean? You won?
No, I would have died.
Oh, I see. I see. That's where my mind goes.
Yeah. No, I wish I had.
I got a stroke and I won $1 million. Wow. Oh, my gosh.
That would have been nice.
That's
and
incredible.
It's been kind of a slow recovery. I still have some balance issues.
Right.
And, if I suddenly lose my train of thought, you'll know what it is.
Okay.
But it was interesting.
Well, I have to say that this is what we're encountering at this age, and what everybody encounters in one way or the other, but doesn't really talk about. I hope you don't mind that we're talking about it. I mean, I think it's interesting,
Well, it's kind of like going to an AA meeting.
Right.
If you don't talk about it,
yeah,
nobody else can get anything from it.
And it's a reminder that we're all going to the same place.
Yes,
you know?
we are.
And all too often people behave as though they have forgotten that or they don't believe it. But, life has its way with you regardless. Look, I'm sorry you went through that or are going through that, but God damn it, you're here.
I kind of thought, turning 70 was going to be easy because I was doing so well.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, God has a way.
Well, but he doesn't give us more than we can handle.
Oh,
they
please.
Say. I like that. I don't say God. I say the universe doesn't give us. I believe that. Oh, please. Listen, some people can't handle it.
I suppose.
Yeah. Oh, come on now. Come on, Steve. You Kmetko, you.
Well, I tell you, my family treats me much better.
Well, yeah.
Just a year later.
Yeah, good.
My nieces were all
use
here.
it.
My nieces were all here just a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. And they're all younger than me, not that much anymore. But they would rush out to, if I drove up to my brother's house or something where they were staying, they would rush out and help me up the stairs.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, you guys, come on.
That's nice.
Yeah, it was nice. But, I suppose I'd rather it didn't happen.
But look, I won't go into it, but in the last 10, 12 years, I've had some shit happen. Life has happened, and it's been really challenging. And I suppose I would like to go back and not have it happen, but it's even ridiculous to think of that. It made me into a person that I never would have been. I'm not saying that it was easy, but I'm not sure I would be nearly as lovable as I am now, or accessible or thoughtful. And I'm not saying it's easy, but and when you have kids, which I do, I have those two sons who can't flush a toilet, as we discussed. I wonder what life is going to be for them and what they will encounter. And nobody gets out of here unscathed.
No.
And some people have it way worse.
Yeah, nobody gets out of this life alive.
What? Oh, what?
Nobody gets out of life alive.
I heard you. I was just shocked. Let's not fight. Not everything is that interesting, and not everything is eligible for consumption. There's something to be said for a world where people don't regurgitate everything online, and it's not real anyway, in a sense, because it's not full. It's not rich. You don't see every dimension of it. So if I start talking stuff, if I start telling my personal issues that are deeply important to me, I'm skeptical that they will be received well. That I reserve for my closest friends and family.
Go for the sympathy.
Okay, I like to crush puppies.
Oh, no. Okay, stop there.
I must crush the puppies. No, it's like, this is a world that can be really unforgiving.
Does Cat the dog know this?
She's part of it. She's my lure. It's dark.
What instruments do your sons play?
Well, what a segue.
Was that? Did you like that?
So good.
I just came up with it on my own.
Well, my older son, Jack, is an indie rocker, and he's a composer. He plays the keyboard, guitar. He's teaching himself the saxophone, which is kind of painful, but he's dogged, and he is talented. And he's touring with a band now called The Props. He also has his own stuff on iTunes under Jack Xander, Xander, and he's kind of incredible. His brother Alfie, who's 20, is an amazing drummer, jazz drummer, and he's at Berklee College of Music in Boston. And they're both shockingly good. I don't have to bullshit or lie that, my sons are really good musicians, and kind of wince as they play. They're really amazing.
That helps.
It does help. I mean, they're young and they're fearless, and they play crappy clubs, low-ceilinged clubs, the kinds that I used to go to in New York when I was in my teens, that I wouldn't be caught dead in now.
Well, it's fortunate nobody can smoke in those clubs anymore.
Oh, yes, but that's only mildly better. They still mosh. It's still seedy and creepy, and they love it. I actually... my son was playing, and I was standing there, and they don't like when old people are in the audience, but my wife and I were there and watching her and trying not to applaud and quell and, oh, look at him, because he's a rocker. and people were dancing, and somebody bumped into me hard, and I kind of, took it, and then somebody else banged into me, a woman, and then the guy bumped into me again, and I said, I lift weights. I have cosmetic musculature. I'm going to put it to use. And I grabbed this guy, and I must have said something like, something brilliant. Okay. And my son is on stage, and I kind of clock him, and he's looking at me. He's playing. He's looking at me like, and afterwards, they were done, and I said, you see, huh? See the old man? I shut down this guy. He said, they were moshing. You stopped them from moshing. The whole point is moshing. God damn it. He was mad at me. And then apparently later on, the guy who I stopped was in another band who went up to my son Jack and said, hey, some old guy stopped me from moshing. It's like, it's humiliating, so I don't stop it from moshing.
We'll be back for more after this.
I thought this is the way it's always going to be. I've reached this rhythm, this pitch of how to work, and I would always be at this level. I was deceiving myself.
Do you think of yourself as an old guy?
I kind of do. It's partly because if I do see myself in some of these early shows, I see a young guy. I see a guy in his 30s, 40 even. But, I have this now. And when I don't have that, sometimes I look in the mirror and I say, hey, what's my mother doing here? Oh, that's me. I look like my 86-year-old mom in New York.
Does she have a beard?
Well, no, she looks great. At least I don't think she has a beard. Steve, please, we'll talk about this. Yeah, you're back. Kmetko's back. Does she have a beard?
You talk about your wife, but you're not married right now.
Well, that's part of the complicated thing.
Okay.
So I'm not married now, but we are in each other's lives. We are in each other's orbits. We are together a lot. More than we're not. We have an investment in each other, in our lives. We've been witnesses to every possible madness, and we are still close. We have sons. We have a lot of things that we share, and we decided, after a while, why not accept where we are and move forward as this unit. Now,
and be friends.
Well, yeah, we have always been friends, and more than friends. And I'm not making it sound like Dr. Zhivago, but I have to be realistic here, and I have to be respectful, and not be dripping with saccharine, lovey-dovey stuff. Again, trying to. I think that's kind of a reflection of where I am after many years of being kind of callow and thoughtless and superficial in many areas, still having fun, still hopefully being likable and empathetic. But this is something different. So, yeah, I'm spoken for, and I guess it's hard. It's hard to be personal in a world that kind of cleans its claws on vulnerability. So I have to watch myself here in a way.
Would you get married again?
I mean, it's something that I've come to believe. Marriage, that it's misunderstood when most people do it, and yet it's inculcated into our society. It's something that you're supposed to do. I don't need to get married. I don't need to have a piece of paper. I need to understand what it's like to be with somebody and to honor them and to have an honest relationship. And these are things that in many ways have eluded me over the years, but which I'm now able to face, I think more honestly, however imperfectly. Would I get married? I mean, it's just it's too easy. Marriage and parenthood are things that people do all the time. The culture celebrates it, but I don't think they really understand what the hell it means to do that stuff. You shouldn't get married before you're 45, and you shouldn't have kids before you're 50. And those are kind of, biological impossibilities in a way, but the wisdom, it turns out, that one needs to embark on either of those commitments is, I think, beyond a lot of people who haven't lived that much life. I mean, like that's a grotesque generalization. But that's why I'm here.
You're doing a good job.
Aren't I? Generally speaking.
Fake it till you make it.
That's right. That's real.
Tell me about, you've worked with some really big people like Mel Brooks, for example. Who gave you the best piece of advice? a piece of advice that you might pass on to someone else?
Right. Well, first of all, I would never, even though I may have gotten some acting advice, I myself would never give acting advice to somebody because I'm still trying to figure it out myself. But the one thing that was told me, I don't know if it was by Mel, because Mel at one point while I was doing the producers really told me to kind of tone it down, which was shocking to me. Because it's such a broad piece, right? It's such a broad show. But even I was just too big for Mel Brooks. So to tone it down, it was hard for me to do. I think I did pretty much. But I can't remember who told me this, but they said, be nice. Nobody's forced to work in this industry. It's not only a good thing tactically to be nice to the PA or to the intern or to the first, second, third, fourth AD, because the way this industry works, in 3 years or 5 years, you'll be begging that person for work. But also, one thing I've learned later on is you get what you give. What you put out comes back to you. And the idea of being nice to somebody rather than being dismissive or rolling one's eyes, or which is very hard to do on social media. I find myself drawn into really terrible kind of arguments with complete strangers instead of backing away or just kind of taking a breath and being nice if they want to engage. So that's really the best advice I've gotten in this particular industry, and the only thing that I would pass on to somebody else is I've seen it work. It's worked for me. I see it work for other people. It's admirable if somebody like Barbara Streisand is being nice to your sister, to Rebecca Kmetko. If Babs is being nice to Rebecca, I'm sorry, I'm trying to make a shtick out of that. That's great and carries so much with it. That's really the only thing that I think I'm capable of credibly passing on to somebody. That and chlamydia. Good night, everybody.
Was it actually canceled? I can't remember that.
I think Wings, I think it was mutually agreed upon by the producers and the studio that would be about it. I mean, we'd gone almost 8 seasons. And while I think it wasn't doing as well as it had, although ironically, probably in its lowest rating would probably beat a hit show today, a streamer, numbers-wise. I just know that it was coming to an end, and everybody kind of had tacitly agreed that this is what was going to happen. And it was interesting because when it ended, I guess we all thought, okay, now what? Because 8 years is a long time.
Oh, yeah.
It's a long time for a TV show. At the time, it was one of the longest sitcoms ever to have run. Now it's probably been surpassed by a lot of shows, but at the time it was probably in the top 10 shows in the history of television in terms of its longevity. I think that I assumed that I would work more, and I was proven right, but not necessarily in things that were good after that. I thought I was, king shit in a way, and by that I thought I was, all right, this is, I really established myself on this show, and what's next for me? And in a way I was treated like that. I was treated by my representatives who saw a possibility of going to a next level. And I was in fact given the opportunity to do my own show, which I did almost a season of, and this was called originally Cursed. It was on NBC, and it was with me and Chris Elliott, Wendell Pierce. It was a kind of a mess. It was kind of a mess.
So what were you thinking the morning after Wings ended?
Well, in a way, I was too young to think deeply about the future. I thought this is the way it's always going to be. I've reached this rhythm, this pitch of how to work, and I would always be at this level. I was deceiving myself because I kind of maintained it for a little while, but without the quality of the writing and of a show like Wings, I was adrift a little bit. But still, I was able to find good jobs. I was on a show called Once and Again. I did guest spots in some movies and stuff. But at the same time, I have to say the cast of Wings was fairly, like I said earlier, humble. They're fairly realistic. It's hard not to get infected by the affirmation and the success that you experience. But by the same token, I always told myself that I'm just a regular guy, and I'm gonna try to do some theater and just keep acting. So I wasn't depressed necessarily, but you learn some valuable lessons when you're not on must-see TV anymore. And you learn lessons about gratitude and about taking yourself seriously. And as I was alluding to that earlier, it took me a long time of living some more life in conjunction with being off that hit show, in which I was able to regain some balance. And as a result, I'm still working and finding pleasure in it and finding meaning in it.
You mentioned that you had worked with Matthew Perry.
Yeah.
His passing seems so unfair.
Yeah.
Is that how you thought about it, or did you have any particular emotions about it?
Yeah. Unfair. It's such an interesting thing to ascribe to somebody who has had so much success and wealth and opportunity. But what he did have was a very human quality, which is pain and demons and all those other things, addiction, and which can seep into anybody, no matter how successful or happy they seem. I knew him. I worked with him. I didn't have kind of an intimate friendship with him, and I was able to observe him when we were on Studio 60, and he was incredibly professional. I didn't see any sign of the things that people allude to now, or then, for that matter. He was consummately professional, always prepared, and a great actor. He could do it all, and I confess that I wanted him to be my friend. So I was trying not to fanboy when I worked with him. He was a good guy. And look, I've developed a lot more empathy than I used to have, and especially getting older and seeing contemporaries fall away, or get ill, or kind of leave the planet. And so I think of him, and I think of his difficulties with respect, and sympathy. So.
Empathy and sympathy don't seem to go with someone who is as outspoken as you can be, as you talked about the things you've written online, that you can't let some things go, you have to respond.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
I absolutely think it's inherent in the medium itself. Those algorithms seem to kind of aggregate a person's rage. They give a person the feeling of power because they don't have to confront the person or the issue face to face. They can be keyboard warriors. They can ruminate and then spew it out into the ether without real consequence. Where'd that come from? I mean, I have opinions. I keep up on the news with the news, and but also I have my biases, and I fall into the same traps that I think a lot of people do, the kind of confirmation bias. I know what I believe, I know what I like, so I'll be damned if I'm going to listen to somebody spewing horrible stuff into the air. So I prefer my news sources that I guess appeal to me. That said, I like to keep I like to find a variety of news sources, and in this day and age, boy, people have have knee-jerk responses to things. One of the things that you and I have witnessed, and a lot of people our age, especially in the industry, is that we went from kind of analog to digital virtually overnight, and it's the kind of excision of that moment of pondering that is really, I think, has a lot to do with how people respond and how easily they get baited and drawn into arguments without a moment to kind of ponder and chew on things, and do you know what I mean, and assess them. Then we just go in and respond and react. And I feel like with the advent of the 24-hour news cycle, and actually have a theory. I hope I'm not blabbering, but that this started in New York City in the maybe late 70s, early 80s, when we come from the time when at 12 midnight the TV sets would turn to snow. Whoosh, they would play the national anthem, and that's it. 6 a.m. Sunrise Semester would be on, or something like that. And but some smart aleck said, you know what? There's people up at 2:45. Let's show some Mary Tyler Moore shows. I think that's what they did. They showed an hour of Mary Tyler Moore reruns, and they got huge ratings. And so that was like, let's go. And so every bit of kind of real estate that used to be reserved for rest has now been taken up and exploited. And I think that's where that comes from. And I'm just human, Steve. I know I have a swimmer's build, but I fall into that trap. I really think that I've got to pull back. So I have a life to live, and I don't want to live it, arguing with some schmuck in his basement.
Are you happy?
Yeah, I am happy. And I'm happy because I feel like I've earned this happiness. I'm still exploring it. If that makes sense.
Has it changed over the years because of the business and living here and the success you've found?
I mean, the things that make me happy now are basically centered around the happiness of my children and the people that I love, and the seriousness with which I take a task or a job. They're less superficial kind of happinesses in a way. I don't find as much happiness or joy in, I don't drink anymore, but of getting tipsy or getting high, or I find happiness in being more present. I've been doing a lot of traveling with my family, and that's been really kind of eye-opening, whereas I used to just do it very superficially and enjoy the trappings of travel. Now I like to go and actually experience what it is that I'm doing and where I am, if that makes sense. I'm just taking things a little more seriously, and that makes me happy.
Where's your favorite place to go?
I've been to Spain a few times, and that's amazing. I love London. I've been Anglophile all my life, and actually had the opportunity to work at the Old Vic years back. Let's say London, Spain. I've been to islands. I've been to Africa. I've been to India. I think it's really important to try to get out of your bubble. When I say your bubble, I mean America. And I think the second somebody does that, the second their head will crack open in the best sense. I think Spain, for my money, that was incredible. Have you been? Of course you've been.
No, I haven't been to
You
Spain.
haven't?
No, I haven't been to Spain.
Brother, Barcelona. Oh my God. Incredible.
I always think of that Sondheim song. Where you going?
Barcelona. That's right.
Oh. Thanks, Stephen.
Thank you, Steve.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome, Stephen.
Still Here Hollywood is a production of the Still Here Network. All things technical run by Justin Zangerly. Theme music by Brian Sanashin. And executive producer is Jim Lichtenstein.